Good afternoon, my beautiful kings and queens. It is Wednesday, April 8th, 2015. Hopefully, you are out there or were out there this morning doing something productive, successful, something that is going to help establish your kingdom and queendom. Today's Sandy Speaks is going to focus directly on my white people. White people, yes, black people know that all lives matter. But what I need you guys to understand is that being a black person in America is very, very hard. Although you all love to say, oh, nobody should see race, people are the reason that racism is still alive. Well, what kind of people are the reason? Black racists have no power, whereas white racists do. They have power because they are in positions of control, or they're in positions where they can influence the control over black people. Yes, that is very true. So to my friends who want to get on my videos and they're upset about the picture that I posted, oh well, I will not apologize for it, because at the moment, Black lives matter. They matter. Our media is showing you, obviously they don't. So for y'all that can sit around and say all lives matter, I want you to go put it on a poster and stand out on a corner somewhere. If we can get enough white people to show that all lives matter, maybe they'll stop killing our black brothers. Because obviously that's what it's going to take for the white people to get up and get tired of black people saying black lives matter. So if y'all want it to stop, you get out there and do something about it. But what you're not going to do is get on my page with the foolishness. You will be deleted. You will be unfriended. I am not a racist. I grew up in Villa Park, Illinois, was the only black girl on an all-white cheerleading squad, so I had to learn how to deal with, and black people, you will not be successful in this world until you learn how to work with white people. But I want the white folks to really understand out there, black people are truly, we're doing as much as we can. Not all of us, but some of us are really doing as much as we can. And we can't help but get pissed off when we see situations where it's clear the black life didn't matter. For those of you questioning why was he running away, well, goddamn, because in the news that we've seen as of late, you could stand there, surrender to the cops, and still be killed. So for those of you that feel like all lives matter, if you want to put it on a poster, I will stand out there with you. But if you're not ready to do that, do not get on my page with it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. You might have a black friend or two, and I'm not calling all white people racist, because y'all not, but for the ones who want to get on my page talking about all lives matter, show me in American history where all lives have mattered. Show me where there has been liberty and justice for all, like that fucking Pledge of Allegiance we love to say. Excuse my French, because Sandy Speaks don't usually cuss, but I was really irritated by the responses to the post that I made earlier, because white people, if all lives mattered, would there need to be a hashtag for Black Lives Mattering? Think about that. Just truly think about that. Yes, black on black crime numbers are extremely high. Yes, they are, but that is because there are uneducated people who are hell-bent on self-extermination. I am not one of them. I am into building up my kings and queens. So for me, Black Lives Matter. And then subset, all lives matter. Take it or leave it. Sandy Speaks.
Mic check, mic check. This is West Wednesday number 430. Our apologies for those of us on Facebook. Facebook is still not accepting our Facebook live feed. However, we are streaming on YouTube and Twitter. The YouTube link has been posted on Facebook as well. But yes, welcome to West Wednesday. This is West Wednesday number 430. We are calling for justice for all victims of police violence. This is led by the sister of Tyrone West, who was killed by the Baltimore police, and she has been fighting for justice and accountability for his death for 430 weeks. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. Yeah, thank you, Brother Ben. And as you can see, it's real interesting. And I'm just going to say it. It's real interesting that Facebook has been playing with us ever since last week. Last West Wednesday, we were able to have, and every week, don't get me wrong, we have special guests on every single week. Because no matter what, if it's live or whatever, anybody that comes on our platform is considered a special guest. But it was interesting. We had Jordan Davis' father, Ron, on here. They cut it. We couldn't get on. And then here we go again. So, and then it's interesting. I think they're actually probably listening to my phone conversation because they tap into everything. You know, COINTELPRO is very real. And then it's ironic that now since we want to set up to have everything directly come from my page, they're like, oh, we ain't even gonna let y'all be able to get on it. It is sickening. But guess what? The hell with Facebook. Thank God for Ben, who puts it on all different social media platforms. So it doesn't matter if Facebook shuts us down, Instagram, Twitter, or even YouTube. That's not going to stop the message. We're going to always be out here. We're going to always constantly continue on doing what we're doing. So then you might, you know, it might irritate us because I'm real irritated right now. I know y'all see it all in my face. My face never lies. But it's not going to stop us from doing what we're doing. You can shut Facebook down, Instagram, YouTube. You can even cut us off right now. It's not going to stop the message because guess what? When you killed my brother on July the 18th, 2013, you did the worst thing in the world you could have ever done. You took a father, a family man away from the family. And then the crazy part, it didn't start with my brother. Unfortunately, it didn't end with my brother. Because a year or two later, Sandra Bland was murdered for a so-called traffic stop before my brother Anthony Anderson was beat to death right in front of his mother. So I don't care what you guys do, whatever type of trickery you're playing, that is not going to silence us. You guys already tried to pay us off to get us to turn the other cheek, walk away. None of your tricks and schemes are going to work. We're going to keep on doing what we have to do. And tonight, just moving right on, I want to talk about, you know, we always come on the platform and we talk about the police brutality because it is real and it leaves all the families impacted. And tonight, as you just saw, the beautiful sister, Sandra Bland, who was a teacher, you know, she was just a queen. She could speak to the whole entire world and have everybody listening. That is power. And when people get like that, they do these schemes and scams and they will set you up. That's why everything that I do, I always, people like, why do you, from the food I eat, from the cheesesteak serve I eat, I always put things on social media because guess what? God forbid if something happens to me, you guys will know at that moment that it's real and y'all know how to take it from there because we're not playing. Y'all not going to just keep on killing us and then we keep on going through this over and over again, this repeated horrible cycle that no one asks us to be a part of. So I said all this to say that literally, you know what happened to my brother? He was murdered, but it didn't stop right there. And tonight we're going to talk about mental health. And that's why I invited our sisters that are on here tonight. Not only are we fighting for police brutality and accountability, but we actually, when I talked last week about mental health matters, mental health does matter. We have to take care of ourselves because see, when we go through these repeated cycles that we never asked for, it is real and we are left suffering. When the funeral ends, you know, when a phone call stops, we are the ones who have to carry this weight around forever. Like this stuff is real. I wouldn't wish my worst enemy. So tonight, our special guest is Sandra Bland's sister, Shantae. We have my best friend, Kira, who I grew up with. She knew my brother Tyrone very well. She's a life coach. And then we also have my sister, Angela, who pretty much, you know, her brother was recently killed, but she's going to be touching on a piece of taking care of your mental health as well. And then we also have Anthony Anderson's beautiful daughter-in-law, Nicole, on here, and she can feel free to speak or whatever she want to do as we go on with the show. So no further ado, we've been out here literally 430 weeks, 3,010 days. That's a very long time. So like I said, I don't care if Facebook want to play this game up. cutting us off now. It's not, we can't connect to Facebook. Like, get out of here. You can keep Facebook. I don't care. We're gonna keep this train moving. So no further ado, I would love to introduce my beautiful queen, my queen, my sister in the movement, Shantae. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. I have T-Mobile.
Yes.
Little bootleg, so I have to make sure you guys can hear me. First of all, I want to say thank you for just allowing me the opportunity and to have me in your space. You know, this is your space, and I appreciate you and I salute you. You know, 430 weeks. Jesus Christ. But we have to do it for our loved ones because no one else is going to do it. We have to control the narrative. We have to be their voice because they can no longer speak. So it's up to us to continue to fight for them and let it be known that what happened should not be happening and cannot happen. It's unacceptable. It's like a lot on the mental when you are faced with something like this. It plays on your psyche. Man, your mental be messed up, your emotions be messed up, the physical be messed up. When my sister first passed away, I was off work for 7 months. They didn't pay me for the first few weeks that I was off some protocol, whatever, but I wasn't thinking about that because I couldn't even begin to understand how my little sister was gone. How she drove away from here so happy to start this job, mentoring the incoming youth. Let me rephrase that, the incoming freshmen. That's what she left Illinois for, to go and help the youth, because the youth are important to her. They were important to her. And so by me being the oldest and her living with me and me and my sister taking care of her while she in college, you know, making sure she had whatever it is that she needed and wanted, it was a lot for me. And I didn't understand it at first. Like, I was mad at God. I was like, you could take so many other people, but you choose to take my baby sister. You know, so I went through a period of laying in the bed. I was real disengaged from my kids. I think my daughter was 16, my son was 15. My baby girl was probably like 12, and the baby, he's 15 now, so he was like 8 or 9. I was so disengaged from them that they would just come in the room and hug me and say, Mama, it's going to be okay. They didn't know what else to do because they had never seen me like that. And in that moment, they saw me weak. In my mind, I was weak because I couldn't even focus. I would go to the cemetery. When I did get the energy, I would go to the cemetery and lay out on the blanket at the cemetery, knowing good and doggone well that, you know, her body was gone or whatever, her spirit was gone. I was against therapists at first. But my spiritual mother, she said, you know, Shantae, what you just went through is very traumatic. She said, you need to see a therapist. She said, I'm not necessarily saying get on no medication, but you need to see a therapist. So I began to see the therapist. And the first few visits, it was like, But as the visits went on, I learned some things. I learned how to decompress, how to do self-care, how to journal, how to color. I had no idea that coloring was a decompressor. What decompressing? I mean, just sitting there looking and coloring all these different pictures, it does something to the mind. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this or not, but it actually, it's a stress reliever. It's like you start painting and looking at how pretty you paint that picture. It changes your mindset, right? Self-care you know, women, I'm speaking for women especially because we wear so many hats. I mean, so many hats. So whereas we mama, we wife, we a church part, the choir person, we the on the PTA at the school, we doing God knows what, right? But we never take time out for us. So I get my nails and my toes done every 2 weeks. I sit my feet in that thing, and I let them rub all of this stuff on me and get the stressors out of my body. They do my hands, they massage my hands. All of that is a part of taking care of your mental. Even just for a moment to just leave everything else and focus on yourself, it feels amazing. As far as the journaling to help, I journal because I know no one is reading it. So I can write whatever I want to write in my journal, and it frees my mind. Even if it's for a moment or a few hours, it frees my mind so that I can think in that moment. Because people, and specifically African American people, they don't they don't know how to deal with most things in life. And they also don't want to go and see a therapist, which I don't understand it. Because I think people say God put people here for certain reasons. I believe that He put therapists here and psychiatrists here for a reason, to help us in ways that we can't help ourselves at times. Um, as I watch the news and as I have different conversations with people, it's very apparent that mental health is real and it's suffering. It's suffering badly. And I don't even know when we'll ever see the light of day with regards to mental health. It's like when they do these budgets and so on and so forth, they always want to downplay mental health. And if you just sit back and think about when you hear different things on the news and you see these different kids and adults, and then you wonder, like, what's going on right here? Because how these kids in Chicago, these kids are 11 through 15 robbing people. Something's not right here. They rob you in broad daylight with no mask, and they have guns. That the mental health is real. It's real, but what people don't want to focus on that. We have to focus on that in order to be able to do anything else. Because if your mental is not right, you can't do anything. You can't fight. You can't write. You can't do anything when your mental is off. We have to take care of ourselves mentally first. It starts with the mental, then everything else will follow suit. I'm just praying for better days when we are treated as humans and not as animals. I mean, because it makes no sense that they value the life of an animal more than they do a human. That's baffling to me. They went crazy when they did whatever they did to the animal, but they're not going crazy when they kill our loved ones. Doesn't make sense. The whole world is just outrageous. For real. But first things first is getting our mental in check and making sure that we have outlets to decompress. Because decompressing is very important. We don't want to walk around with all of the stress on us. And we also have to know our triggers. And we know that there is a trigger. We cannot allow ourselves to be triggered. We have to remove ourselves from that situation. Pray about it or whatever it is you choose to do about it. And remove yourself so that you don't fall into a place that you don't want to be or that you should not be. And that's just the way that I am. Sometimes you may see me smiling because I'm having an okay day. But every day I think about my sister. and what we would be doing right now in Texas. Some days I get real depressed, and I'm not gonna lie about it. Yes, I get depressed at times because I miss my sister. And the mere fact that Insignia is still able to be with his family disturbs me. But what I don't do now, 6.5 years in, I don't let it like take me out like it used to. I'm controlling my mental health and doing what I have to do to make sure that I'm able to stay here a little longer and continue to fight for my sister with a sane mind. I don't want to be on pills and all of that. I just want to be what I need to be for her and be there for my brothers and sisters in the struggle. Because no one can relate more to you than someone who's been through it. People can absolutely empathize. Yes, they can. Till you have actually walked those shoes. All you can do is say, stop. I'm praying for you. And let me know if you need anything. And that's just where I am with that. So if you take anything from what I just said, self-care is number one. Journaling, number two. Coloring, number three. Knowing what your triggers are, number four. And just loving on you. Have to love on you. That, if I was able to help someone on today, and I'm praying for the day that we don't have to add more names, more pictures to this horrible, horrible, horrible family that we've been inducted into due to the hands of law enforcement who are supposed to be serving and protecting. That's it.
I just want to thank you so much for that, sis. Like, you touched on all the avenues and you said everything perfectly. I don't even know how to literally, like, come behind that. But I will say that I think, too, that, like, and this is just my opinion, but I think just me being raised up in a house, the way I was, like, family ties and through generational things, and when we were taught as, like, kids and stuff, and you were like seeing a therapist or something, they were like, you would be considered a nutcase. But the first thing that they would want to do in the black community is, and I bear witness it, is try to like throw out children on medication and all this foolishness. And I'm not saying for the ones that do need medication, because some, guess what? Some cases are more intense and you do need the meds. I'm not, saying anything about that, but med should not be the first option. And I just remember being a teenage mom, and I remember my son, and I thank God that I was able to be strong, even though I was a teenager growing up with my babies. But I was able to be strong enough to not let nobody force their will and way. My will has always been strong. Like, you're not going to just tell me anything, and I'm going to take your word as God and then just run wild with it. And I remember when my son would get bored in school, this is my oldest son, he would actually help his other peers in his class. Like, he wasn't fighting nobody, he wasn't doing anything, but he would actually help his other peers do their work. And I remember they're pulling me into a conference. I never forget, it was a principal, and you had the school counselor, and they're quickly pulling me into the office. Like, they were like, we need to meet with you about some, behaviors that we're noticing in your son. So the first thing, I'm getting scared, like, oh my God, like, what is my son doing? Like, is he in school being big? Like, 'cause I don't see this at home, and I know children act different when they go in the school environment. But long story short, when I went in that day, and I even asked them, can I bring my mom? And they was like, well, yeah. They was like, well, we really want to meet with you. We don't want to meet with grandma. I know, but I'm in my mind, like, I'm a teenager. Like, I don't have any clue, but I didn't tell them that. I'm like, okay, well, y'all can meet with me. Fine. But my red flag went up when they told me that my mother couldn't come. But if you're talking about a child, but long story short, they pretty much was letting me know that my child was born. And then it was like, you might want to talk to your doctor about putting him on medication. I'm like, hold up. And that was the first thing. And that turned me off. But what I did, I said, I turned it around on them. I said, you know what? You guys might need to use that medication that you're trying to introduce me to for my child. I said, well, let's be clear. He's not hurting or harming anyone. No, he's not, I said, he's not like being able, like, he's able to take in a lesson, as you guys said. He's not getting bored or like antsy. No, they was like, after he do his work, he wants to yell this thing, and he want to go around and help people. I'm like, are you serious? And I was glad that I made that decision. But the decision that I could have made, just being peer pressure, feeling like I should have, like they were trying to sway me to get him, like literally talk to your doctors, we can get him on Ritalin, and they use these words, they can get him on Ritalin. And I'm like, oh hell no. But I thank God that I didn't, because now, since to this day, my son don't smoke, don't drink. He ain't never been arrested for anything, graduated, all this good stuff. And just that moment, if being a teenager, would have took up the idea to entertain that, would have tried him on something, and then for me to learn that some of the chemicals that they put in the Ritalin is like crack cocaine, it's horrible, like I said. So that's what pretty much turned me off with, and my whole thing about, counseling and stuff. But when my brother was murdered and I learned about the Roberta House, first I'm in my mind like, okay, I'll just go and see this about, but I'm not going to take no medicine. First thing I thought they were going to do, they're going to, evaluate you, give you some diagnosis, and put you on medicine. And I'm like, I'm not taking, because I don't drink, smoke, or anything my own self. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, well, I was strong enough to advocate for my children that's growing up with them, my first two. Whatever, I was like, I'm going to advocate for myself. But when I went in there, it was totally different. And like you said, it taught me about my whole entire new life, because a big part of me died on July 18th. Like you said, the pain is so real. It touched your faith. I questioned God, like how you was. I'm like, like, God, why did you have to take care of him? Like, we wasn't perfect. We was in church every Sunday. Why my brother? You know what I mean? Why my mother was the first one to pass away in my family. Now my brother is the first one killed, even though it don't matter, because my family is my family. No matter who it would have been, I still would have been hurt. It still would have been intense, but I'm still challenging God. And then the God in me was like, you got work to do. He didn't suffer. You got to take care of yourself. And for months I couldn't speak. But when I went to the Burger House, as though I didn't want to get into it, but I didn't even want to leave there. I was so mad that something that seemed like it was going to be so long, a 10-week program, I'm like, oh my God, I wanted another 10 weeks. But then I learned from that, like, to write my triggers down. Like you said, avoid my triggers. Because I didn't know about, like, certain songs would make me cry. And I'm like, I can't drive. I feel so angry. I learned those were my triggers. I learned about journaling, and it's funny and amazing that you said about the color piece, because I didn't hear about that. But I know I love in the classroom. I'm like, with the kids, I think I'm coloring more harder than them, and I'm feeling so relaxed as we're coloring out the papers and, all this fun stuff. So I just want to thank you for sharing. I want to check in real quick, because I don't know who's reading our questions or comments tonight, but even though we're not going to have as many as we would have on Facebook, but we probably do have some on YouTube, because I'm seeing a few. Is somebody reading our questions tonight? Mic check.
Mic check.
Uncle Bill, are you there? Well, I don't see it, but I'm gonna try to see if because I don't see no volunteers. And sorry guys, I got my phone on, but I'm gonna try to go to the question comment, because I know you gotta go to your family function. So I respect that, but I'm gonna go, if you don't mind, sis. I'm gonna share some comments and questions real quick. And we have our brother Marcus, but he had another event that he had to do tonight. He sent love as well as his apology. So
thank you.
I can do the best way I can. But, oh my God.
I want to say this too, though, sis. But a lot of people, they get therapy and psychiatry mixed up. I had to learn that the hard way. The therapist doesn't give you the medication. It's like psychiatrist does. So you can always go and speak to that therapist as an outlet before even going to the psychiatrist. I was doing therapy first, but when it comes to taking indefinite leaves of work, then that's when the psychiatry came in. And he has to be the one to say, hey, She's stressed, she's depressed, she got anxiety and PTSD, all this other extra stuff. He has to be the one to say that, and he'll be the one to, if you want to take medicine. They can make you take the medicine, but they definitely can offer it to you. But it's up to you to take that medicine. But first things first, there's nothing wrong with therapy. We need us a therapist in our lives, for real. With all the stuff I just went through in these last 5 weeks, from um, family members being almost deceased to a very close woman, close to me, like my mother passing, to me failing my freaking class because I was so stressed out, overwhelmed, so to speak, with everything that was just coming. It was like every week it was something. I got to refocus. I'm going back to the therapist next week. See, we get so, well, we like, once we feel we good, we stop going to that therapist. But what I realized is, in them 5 weeks that I just had a series of events going on, I should have never stopped going to that therapist. I should have kept it going. Even if I was having good weeks, I should have kept it going. So I'm saying all that to say, I am signing back up to go next week. My anxiety be so, it be through the roof. A part of me actually want to take some medication, honestly, to just get me on some type of balance, because my anxiety, it has me up at night. Any little thing, I try not to even watch the news because that's just going to send me up the roof. But then when you come on Facebook, you're seeing everything on Facebook, so it's just like, what do you do? So I'm going back to the therapist next week, and I'm going to try and get something figured out, because I have to sleep. I'm like, I go to bed at like 1, 2 in the morning, and I'm back up at 4:45. I know that's not good. It's not happening every day. But God forbid if something happens, well, somebody pass away, or somebody get domestic violence, abused, or somebody get raped. It triggers me. And it has me just in a space where I don't even need to be. So I ain't gonna talk no more because I could talk all day, but I thank you for having me. I'm humbled. Anytime someone wants to hear about my sister or wants to hear me speak, whenever you need me to.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I was unable to see the questions on my computer because my computer screen is frozen. The only thing I could see is something, I think it was AC Britt was saying something about self care is so important. And before that, like it's just like my whole screen is scrambled, so I can't read off the comments or whatever. But yeah, definitely wanted to thank you. And if you,
I'm gonna still stay on. I'm just gonna shut my camera off, but I'm gonna still stay on as long as I can, because I would like to hear the other queens and kings on the line.
okay,
So I'm just gonna take my picture off, and then when I get to my sister's house, I'll just disconnect.
awesome. That sounds good. Well, glad our sister Shantae just shared like some real positive words of wisdom, and that self care, and it's very important. And she actually broke it down, and I'm definitely like can relate to it, and it's other stuff that I want to add to my to do list that she does. And the reason why I chose her tonight because I look at how beautiful she is, and I follow her all the time on Facebook and different on social medias. And we just met up in San Diego, and she always takes good care of herself. And it's just amazing that we don't look like what we're going through. It's like it's real. But real quick, I'm going to bring my best friend Kara on, who actually knew my brother. We grew up together. Me and her was in the same pre-K classroom all the way through elementary school, everything. And Like, and we still rolling tight. This is my buddy, my best friend, and we could just pick up the phone and just go on. And I recently found myself calling her not just as a friend, but when my own personal matters hit my own house in my life, I actually have reached out to this queen to actually do some life coaching with my daughter who I didn't know was suffering. Like, so anybody can suffer from depression. And I'm in my mind like thinking, oh well, and I always check on my kids like if they wasn't in school, like not only like when they was in school, like I'm talking about the online thing. But when they was like going to school, well, everybody's back in school now. But before the pandemic, I would definitely, when I would ride, pick my child up every day, would talk to her, hey, how was your day? Did anybody bully you? You want to talk to me about anything or whatever, we would talk. But so I'm thinking like, okay, now she's in the house safely. She was online and, they were eating a bunch of snacks. I would take them out. I turned my whole living room into a movie theater, video games, the whole 9 yards, and still checking in. Still, we're going to church virtually online. So I'm thinking my child is fine. Had no clue or idea that she was actually suffering depression. Like literally, so you think about seeing what her mother's going through, with losing my grandmother, my cousin being murdered, her uncle, just so much back, not being able to do her cheering, her flipping, all this stuff that keeps her good. She was stuck in a place that I didn't even know she was at. And then when I would come home, hey baby, how was your day? I'm fine. She had a beautiful smile and the whole time lying. And I felt so bad because I did not pick up on it. So I was literally like, oh my God, I felt like a failure. I'm like, how could I not know that my child was going through something? And I'm like, and then I'm thinking like, how can a child suffer from depression? They not paying no bills, they not in the dark, they eating good meals, they, you taking good care of them, we going to, well, we go get our nails done, hair done, that type of thing, paying for each other. But I didn't know mentally, like your mental is very important, but I had no idea that she was actually suffering through depression. And I reached out to my best friend and she broke it all down and she made me understand. And thank God, and now I have my daughter getting counseling as well, and I still get it for myself, and so counseling is definitely needed, and that's how we survive through this. We don't just thrive. I mean, we don't just survive. We thrive through whatever we go through. I just recently did a workshop about that or whatever. But long story short, no further ado, I want to bring in my best friend from pre-K, y'all. I met this queen in pre-K when I was telling y'all last week about the little white girl named Deborah that I had met, and her grandfather was telling me all this prejudice stuff when I called and say, oh, Deborah's not picking cotton. She brushing her teeth for some foolishness. But Karen was right in the same classroom where we walked each other home, and we just grew up together. I had kids together, we cooked together. So no further ado, my best friend Karen. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Hey everyone, it's so many emotions that I have, regarding this situation. But first, I just want to thank everyone, not just for your strength and for your courage to continue to walk through what you didn't choose to walk through, but what you were chosen for. And I know it's hard, and I know that, you just, like Shantae said, go moment by moment. Although this did not affect me directly, I've known, like Tawanda said, for years. Her family is my family. So seeing them go through this and not being able to do anything for them crushed me as well. And forgive me for this because, Tyrone had a nickname and that's what I call him by his nickname. But for the sake of, the conversation, I will refer to him as Tyrone. When he passed away, when he was murdered, I was 700 miles away. So for me to actually see it on the news in a different state and then recognize the car and try to reach out to my friend because I knew it was her car, it did something. So, I won't continue to go too deep because I got to keep myself together. I don't know how you guys do this. I had no idea. The only thing that I can say is you are the light that shines for everybody else. And even though you did not choose the assignment, it chose you. But I really do thank you for your courage, because other people are watching this and their strength comes from you, even though it's something that you didn't choose. So leading into what Shantae was mentioning about mental health and self-care, she literally touched on exactly what I was going to say regarding self-care. A lot of times we think that self-care is simply going to get our nails done. It's simply looking good on the outside, but we need to get the inside checked as well. And when we do go to counseling, I'm such an advocate for counseling and therapy. It's not even funny. I have my therapist on speed dial because I need someone who can understand and be able to break certain things down to me, such as breathing techniques, how to do the breathing techniques. I journal all the time. When, Shantae mentioned going to get a pedicure, in the way that she described it, I hadn't heard it been described like that before, but you are putting your feet down, you're taking a moment, and you're reflecting on what's happening in the moment. So thank you for breaking that down for everybody, because people don't know. I often hear when I talk to women, oh, I'm going to have a self-care day. Great. You look wonderful on the outside, but what are you doing for the inside? Tap into that. A lot of people don't know about breathing techniques and things like that. You may have a stressful time or stressful day, and you may not be breathing properly, which can contribute to anxiety, which can contribute to a shortness of breath. But because you may have forgotten to breathe or breathe properly in that moment, it triggered other things. Shantae also and Tawanda also mentioned triggers and being able to identify your triggers. I think that when you're able to identify your triggers, it's going up the ladder to winning even more, because a lot of times we will be emotional and we don't know why we're angry or why we're mad or whatever, but we don't take a step back, or we can't in the moment take a step back to understand what made us feel that way. So being able to identify your triggers, write down your triggers and things like that, all of that contributes to self-care. And I hope that people remember that as they're going through their day. Another thing that I wanted to mention is blaming yourself because of what happened. And I know that some of you have gone through blaming yourself. To Wanda specifically, if I wouldn't have let him hold my car, if I would have went with him, if I would have done all of these things, he would still be here. When in actuality, what happened, it happened. None of us wanted it to happen, but God has the final say. So if the roles were reversed, I often ask myself, who would be able to continue to fight? It's tough. There are so many stereotypes when it comes to mental health, just like you mentioned, especially growing up in our community. Go to church, go do this, go do that. God made therapists, he made counselors, he made psychotherapists, and all of those things for us to have as a resource, but we weren't taught that. And with our men specifically, they weren't taught, and they're still not being taught to share their feelings, share their emotions, put themselves in a vulnerable space, because then you're looked at as less than. Your strength is diminished as a man, when in actuality we're all human. We all need a safe space, and we all need time to be vulnerable. not just with ourselves in our quiet space, but with each other as well. This month is Domestic Violence Month. And I know we have these months and these times, but people that are walking through it, it's every day. And I know that some of the things that you have gone through, some people have suffered domestic violence because of it, because of the anger, because of the tension, because of different reasons, and things that take place in different situations. So as far as domestic violence is concerned, I want to just let you know that if you are going through domestic violence, there are resources, there are ways to get help. I'll give the hotline and the website before I'm done, but try not to blame yourself for that either. Take some time, just like Shantae mentioned, just like Tawanda mentioned. Tawanda often will take a ride. And sometimes I just turn her live off because she'll be playing a song, and I know the song may be played unconsciously. It might just be something on the radio, but it reminds me of when we used to go out, when, her brother would listen. He was like the big brother, neighborhood brother to everybody. He was the one, and I probably told this story 100 times, but when we, went to the corner store, it's what does everybody want? And we will all be getting whatever we wanted from the store. If somebody was bothering us, if we couldn't go in certain areas because he told us not to, and it was just, he was a protector. So when all of this happened to him, it was like, just like she said, what? How? Why? And we still have these questions, but at the end of the day, we know what our assignments are. I hope we know what our assignments are. And we might just be the light that somebody else needs to see. So it doesn't stop with the event of what happened. It continues on so that, people like yourselves can use your voice and speak. And you never know what someone is going through in a given moment that you might say that may lift them up, even if it's for a moment, and gives them time to reflect later on something else. There's so much, trauma. Well, there's drama and trauma. I was gonna say drama, but it's both. When you go through traumatic events, it can cause drama in your home, and you don't know how to stop it. Tawanda has created a village of people who cannot just call her, but call each other. I've seen, when she said 430 weeks, I almost passed out. I don't know how I would even be able to keep count. I think I stopped counting at 200 and something weeks. And then to hear 430 something weeks kind of blew my mind, because that just goes to show not just her strength, but again, the village that she's created around her, because some of y'all have been there since day one. I can remember the first memorial that you did for the anniversary of Tyrone's death, right? And we came up there, I remember. And I remember walking in the neighborhood. I remember stopping at the site. I remember everything, right? How's she gonna keep doing this every year, every week? So to see somebody that I'm so close to not just go through all of the events of what happened, but to keep reliving them over and over and over again, and to be able to stand on 2 feet, raise children, be there, not just raise the children, because, our jobs are never done as parents, but take care of the children, entertain the children, cook for the children. I know y'all see her Facebook when she be cooking. Like, how? It's day, like, my strength comes from her sometimes, because some days I just don't feel like it, but then I might read a post or see a post and I'm like, let me get up and do what I need to do. Because if she has all of this on her plate and then some, I can go complete my, small task. But I just want to, like I said, encourage everyone to not be afraid of mental health. Strive for what's going to improve you and make your purpose continue to be served. And mental health and self-care, which goes hand in hand, is the way to start doing it. I'm going to give the phone number and the website for the domestic violence hotline, because again, when something's going on, you really don't know what's going on all the time. But the number for domestic violence is 800-779-SAFE, SAFE, or 7233. The hotline for it is, not the hotline, that's the website. Thehotline.org is the website. And then there's also a website for teen domestic violence as well, which is 866-331-9474, and their website is loveisrespect.org. And I wanted to give that information because even as adults, like Tawanda mentioned her daughter, we don't know what they go through that they don't tell us. And we forget that they have stuff too. They have heavy stuff. They watch us go through stuff. They don't know how to communicate specifically with us because they don't want to feel like a burden. They don't want to feel like they're putting what they feel on us because they already see what we're going through. And then to top it off, it's the peer pressures of school, the peer pressures, whether it's homeschool, in-person school, or whatever. They're still talking to the outside world. And then there's social media. We didn't have social media when we were younger. So whatever we did was not taped, filmed, or anything like that to be, put in the light for us to be having, felt ashamed of or have low self-esteem or anything like that. We did what we did. Now, I can testify and say that we didn't do nothing like what we see on social media, and she will tell you that I had to come in the house when the street lights came on. My mother would call me, and you would hear her call me around the corner. Cameron! And I would be so embarrassed, but I'm glad now. But our children, they have so many pressures on them that we just don't know about. But we can find out about them, and it's as simple as a conversation, and not just a regular conversation, but continuous conversations, because something may have happened last week, and you may have had several conversations last week, but they may not have felt comfortable enough to come to you and tell you about that thing that happened until a week later when they see you consistently having conversations with them. So don't be afraid to talk to your kids. Don't be afraid to see what's going on. And most importantly, don't forget to check in with your kids because of what you have going on. And when we do talk to our kids, don't talk at them. Talk to them. Let them know that it's okay, that whatever they may be feeling, you won't judge them. Because the last thing a child, specifically a teen, wants to do is feel judged. They don't want to feel unimportant. They don't want to feel like they can't speak because they're always getting spoke to. So I just want to remind you too that if you do have children, even if you have children and your children are grown and you see kids outside, I said this earlier today, when you see children outside, say hello, speak to them properly. You may be the only example in their lives that they have ever come across to hear a proper hello, or to hear, hey, how you doing? You good? Pay for their soda at the store. It's okay. Like, nobody is going to get offended by that. Now, there are some angry teenagers, extremely angry. Another thing that Shantae mentioned was when teenagers, the things that they do, the things that they act, the ways that they act, the behaviors that they have, all of that is stemming from somewhere. And a lot of people like to say it starts at home. Well, I always say, suppose that child does not have a home. That could not be where it started from because they may not have a home. So just take a little extra time when you see kids, on the street, at the store, at the grocery store, or whatever, and ask them, "Hey, how you doing?" Or just a simple hello and a smile. Nobody may not have smiled at them all day. So just kind of take some time to be mindful and know that you are still here for a reason. And although you didn't choose it, you didn't choose anything that you have gone through. You were chosen, and God knows what He's doing.
Awesome, best friend. I love it. I love it. I love it. And yes, and I see Shantae, she giving you the claps. So yes, let's just get this thing rolling. And also, I want to check in real quick with my sister Angela to see if she's ready to share the piece. And in case, like, and I know this is your first time, both of y'all first time, Shantae as well as you, Kara, meeting my sister Angela. My brother was recently killed, and I'm just amazed where her strength is coming in, because when Tyrone was first murdered, I couldn't speak for months. Like, my cousin Neil and my uncle was the main speakers of the family. I could not speak. I couldn't talk. I was in the shutdown space or whatever. But she has been speaking out. She has been on it, doing that thing. So, no further ado, I want to introduce you to, and her brother, name is Timothy Fleming, because I don't like to say the was, because, well, guess what? Tyrone lives through me, so he is still here. Like, he may not be in the physical, but he's spiritually connected to me. He will always be. So I'm never going to say was. I don't like to use that past tense or whatever, but no further ado, our sister Angela. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Okay.
Good evening. Shantae and Kara, it was very good listening to you all. Shantae, I have a sister named Shantae. It devastated me when your sister Sandra Bland was murdered. I know she didn't kill herself. Mental health is very, very important. We all have been through. I'm not a doctor, but I can assume that we all have PTSD because I've already been diagnosed with PTSD. It's a very traumatic experience, and we're still dealing with it. Like Kara said, to 430 weeks, it's like, I don't even know. I don't know. My brother was murdered May 16th, and I was ready to throw in the towel just on Thursday of last week. Like, literally. I'm like, there's no way I can win this fight. I'm just going to throw in the towel. I'm like, I'm not going to win. I'm mentally drained. I'm physically drained. It's exhausting. And not just for me, but for my nephews, because they're still in the house. Now, if I'm thinking about my mental state, what are their mental state? My brother was murdered in his house, and his 2 sons are still living in the house. They get up every day. Their mother take them to school, and they come home to the same house that their father was murdered in. That fucks up my mental every day. And I'm not going to say excuse my language because it fucks up my mental every day. I wish I could get them out of that house, but I can't. Fucked up part is, they're going to tell their mother Shannon to call Brandon Scott. For what? He know that their father was murdered in that house. He know that the kids are still in that house. My brother's children are still in that house. Yeah, call Brandon Scott to see if you can get on the HUD list and all of this craziness. We still don't even have an autopsy report. You know how mentally draining that is? It's mentally draining. The game is going to take 2 years, they say. 2 years for a full investigation. No, we cannot get a freaking autopsy report because it's going to take 2 years for an investigation. That's foolishness. That's just craziness. It's mentally draining. Every day, it's easy for me to just sit in my house and not talk to anyone. I live alone. I have no children. So it's easy for me to just turn off my phone and just shut down. Very easy. I've done it recently. But I had to tell myself, look, you need to get your ass up because you got shit to do. Again, I'm not going to excuse my language because that's how I feel. But the mental part that is very hard for me is having my nephew still in the house. You know, I have a therapist and I have a psychiatrist. And I have a group that I be in normally on Tuesdays, but we're taking a break, but we're getting ready to start. I can't wait to get back into this group because that's a group where I can talk, and it's a spiritual group, and they give me, like Kira said, breathing techniques and stuff like that. The things that you forget how to do, it teaches you that. It reminds you of that. The coloring, we was talking about the coloring, what's it, Shantae? Cooking is my art. I like to cook, like Tawana, she loves to cook. I love to cook, that's my art. I don't color, I like to cook, that's my art. So I'll probably be gaining 30 pounds in the next few months. But I'm saying all this because that's my outlet. Cooking is my outlet. I try to get up every day. I try to focus on something positive to do. I've even went to an event here in North Carolina. I live in North Carolina, but my brother was murdered in Baltimore. So I travel back and forth to Baltimore frequently. But I actually went to an event in High Point here on Friday. And I need to start doing more of local stuff as well as driving to Baltimore, because it's ridiculous. The murders that, it's like every time I hear a murder, that's just another trick. When George Floyd was murdered, I shut down Facebook. I came back on Facebook, I want to say maybe May of this year. My brother was murdered May 16th. I just come back on social media because my mind could not take all of that. The riots, the killings, the police brutality, the fighting, just everything. It was just literally clogging my mind. And I literally had to just shut down. I couldn't watch the news. Some days I still can't, because it's just hard. It's hard. It's every time you hear about somebody being murdered, especially someone that looks like me, us, black, brown people, it takes you back. We're never going to get away from it. They've been murdering us forever. They're never going to stop unless we do something. That fucks with your mind to know that they're never going to stop murdering us. No matter how hard we fight, no matter how hard we yell, no matter how hard we scream, when are they going to stop murdering us? I can't sleep at night. I said I have a psychologist. The psychologist is the one that prescribes you medication. It don't work. It don't work. Sometimes it might work, but why do you want to say something on a mic? It's like, what do you do? What do you do? But as far as my nephews, I can't even imagine just being in a house where my father was actually murdered every single day. Every single, it's freaking out. And there's nothing to do. I can probably just go bang on Brandon Scott's door. What is that going to do? He knows that those children are still in the house. It's fucking up their mental. They already don't like the police. What do you think is going to happen in a couple of years. My brother's son Timothy is 12. He has autism. So it's a good chance that he probably won't go out there and terrorize him. My brother's son Christopher, he's 11. He never went outside without my brother. My brother would not allow it. He goes outside now and go wherever he wants. Sign number 1. He's already straying away from home. What do you think is going to start happening now that he's starting to stray away from home, stuff that he's never done before? The bad influences are going to get into his head. He's already mentally fucked up. His father was murdered in his home. They do therapy, but come on, I mean, they're kids, they're children, and they're still in that house. And it's taking everything in me not to break down. I mean, I'm just trying to hold it together, but it's mentally draining. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
And I just want to say real quick, sis, I'm definitely sorry for everything that you're going through, and I couldn't imagine just living that type of pain, agonizing pain. But again, just to let you know that we're here. We send each other prayers. You can call me at any time. And I always tell you, try not to just focus on, what's going on. Like, try to to think about the good, happy times. Try to think about what your brother would want you to do, And I know it's real hard because, like you said, his children are still in that house. I can barely breathe when I go on Calway once a year. Like, literally, my heart stops as I drive up Loch Raven and I get close to that bridge part where you can actually turn. I don't never go down that street, but I can't breathe. I'll start getting a headache, so I don't even go that way. I try not to take Loch Raven because I know that's one of my triggers. So I couldn't imagine having to be in a space where my loved one was murdered. Like, I'm just praying for you. I'm praying for my sister, Shantae, and I'm just praying for all of us. And I want to check in real quick for time's sake because I know we got to read our not little, but our unfortunately community violence list as well as our police brutality list. And I know we got a long list tonight, but again, I just thank you guys for just recognizing that mental health is very important. Because, like our sister said it, what can we do if we can't take care of our mind? Our mind tells our bodies everything, and by you talking, and I'm feeling the pain, and I'm learning too that, like, when I get overwhelmed, I'll just feel like I'm getting a toothache. It's just the nerves in my mouth would just hurt so bad. And I went to the dentist. I don't have like nothing's going with my tooth, but it's just the nerve, the stress. Stress will hurt you. Stress will take you out. Like, literally, I had my Uncle Dynamite, who just had a stomach ulcer, worrying about his nephew Tyrone, and then literally Hopkins screwed him around and left something in his stomach that turned cancerous, and he pretty much died from that. That was his death sentence, just because it had not. And I always think about, what if Tyrone was here still? Would my uncle have passed away? Who knows? Like, it's just sad. And then to know that my grandmother just passed away, and my cousin Tavon was murdered. Somebody that's right there that I talk to all the time, every day, and that's always out there for me, is now no longer here, but only in the spirit. Like, how much can we take? But the most important part for us to take from this is taking care of our mental, because that stuff, if you focus on all that negative stuff, that could actually kill you. That could be our death sentence. And I want to check in real quick for time's sake to see if Nicole, because I know she's traumatized too, because not only did she lose her father-in-law, Anthony Anderson, who was killed a year before my brother, but she lost her daughter 2 weeks later. Like, her 16-year-old baby girl was gunned down. Like, I couldn't imagine that type of trend. Like, it's too much of pain to actually lose my brother, who was like a father, and it's too much pain losing my cousin, who was like a brother. Like, it's too much of losing my grandma, who was a mother, and losing my own mother. It's too much. So I don't even want to imagine. Like, so again, I just want to check in and see if Nicole would have anything. Mic check.
Hey sis, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you, sis. Go ahead, Queen.
Real quick, can I just point Angela? I understand it's gonna be a long road, right? But I just want you to, if you can, because that's where your strength gonna come from. It's no one else here that's gonna be able to do it like you. So if you have to go in that kitchen and cook up a feast, go in that kitchen and cook up a feast if that's your care. These people play a lot of games with this paperwork and so on and so forth. But we have to, unfortunately, play the game with them and just learn how to be better. And have to let it go. And when they let it go, to God be the glory. So I just wanted to share that with you and my condolences and just try to put some strength on you for this long roller coaster. Matter of fact, it's not even a sprint, it's a marathon, you know, dealing with these folks. And you can get the strength to continue on. And I'm over in fathom being in a house where my father was murdered. I mean, we don't even know what's going on through their heads. Like, I mean, all of these, and I'm calling them out today, all these goddamn on agencies that be always want to be all front and center when things be like this be occurring and it be national and so on and so forth. Where are you now? Because these babies need to move.
Yes.
That's step one.
Exactly.
They need to move. So where are these resources that everyone likes to talk about? Oh, I'm here. Where are you? Because they need you right now. That's traumatizing in itself. That was one of the reasons why I moved, because my sister was living with me before she moved to Texas in the same house. The week after we buried her Saturday, Wednesday, I moved out. I couldn't even imagine having to look at the kitchen and she ain't over there cooking red beans and rice. She not over there like, sister, what you need me to do? I couldn't even imagine. So I'm a Tawanda, get her my phone number, and if I have to call the people for you, whoever you need me to call, whatever you need me to do, that's craziness. They need to get them up out of there.
It's beyond craziness, and I thank you.
But I love you with the, you know, because you're a queen, you're my sister. I love you with the love of God, and I pray that, you know, you're able to smile again, you know, one day. But it's one moment, literally, one moment at a time.
Thank you.
And that was beautiful, Shantae. And I don't mean to like take up all the time, but it's just like, cause I couldn't imagine, like it just really hit me. Like even though I hear my sister talking about the kids still being in there, but when you think about it, like I remember, like I can't even, to be honest, like my grandmother, she's a homeowner, all that, but I had not been back in my grandmother's house because it's too traumatized for me. Like I ride past, holler at my uncle, hey, and then her in where everything was on the first level and all that. I never went back there after she passed away. She didn't even die in that house. She passed away at the hospital. But the fact that everything about that house was grandma, everything about her home that we was brought into on Guilford Avenue, that was home for everybody. You get what I'm saying? And I have not been able to actually go my body up inside it, so I couldn't imagine actually living in a spot that your loved one was murdered. That is sick. So we need to be on top of that ASAP, and I will connect us. And we need to definitely holler at these so-called local politicians and see what they can do. Like enough is enough. We ready to start this campaign now. Get them kids out that goddamn house ASAP.
Immediately.
And everything. Like, yeah, so this is maybe that's why God opened up this venue right here to help. But we gonna that's task number one right there. That's on the top of the agenda. Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes, to God be the glory. We're gonna work this thing out. Because that's listen, Listen. Ooh, Jesus Christ. Hallelujah.
Ooh, see, but this is what space and the mental health and clearing, because sometimes like you can hear things, but you're just so consumed with everything that's going on, and it was just so traumatizing of what happened to her brother and just everything. And every time I hear about somebody's brother or sister getting murdered, it opens up my brother casket all over again. So I'm still traumatized, screwed around, all that, and I'm suffering it. And I never ever until this moment really truly embrace the fact that those children are still in a house that should be shut completely down. And then the crazy part, the block that they live in, that's the same block. And I think that's probably why I disassociated myself unknowingly and unconsciously for my own health's sake, because my cousin was killed on that block this year. The same night that we were talking about Ruiz on the news, and Ruiz is the first killer that murdered my brother. Literally, the ACLU put out a report that they had all these complaints, over 3,500 complaints against the Baltimore City Police Department. And then they talked about the Gun Trace Task Force, and they talked about Ruiz, who's currently still working. And they said he had an additional 18 complaints that we never knew about. And here it is. I'm on the news at 11:30, and my cousin is murdered 39 minutes later on a West Wednesday morning on that same block, that same neighborhood that your brother was killed in. So that's probably why I had to disassociate myself so I wouldn't go nuts. That's probably because I knew that that was a trigger for me. So I unknowingly, not trying to turn my back on you, but for my sanity, because I'm still not, like, it's going on a year. My cousin been murdered almost, and we don't know a damn thing. There ain't been nothing been transparent about nothing, and it's been 8 years. We still fighting the same fight from day one. The same thing. Nobody's been arrested. So yes, sis, that's definitely on the top of the to-do list. So yes, God is so
I've been
good.
screaming since day one. People are still in that house. I've been screaming it since day one. Why are they still in that house? Why are they still in that house? Why? Like I said, I can't get them out myself. I just can't go and get them out.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do something because I'm
I
gonna make
wish
a
I
few
could.
calls. We gotta bring the media in. I got some tricks up my sleeve, so that's task. Yeah, we got this. Just don't even worry about it. I'm gonna pray on it, lay on it, and we make a move. So definitely. But real quick, I want to check in with Nicole. Real fast. Sister Quinn, is Nicole still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes. Nicole, do you want to share anything or a beautiful song or anything real quick before we move on to this horrible sad list? My
Okay,
check.
I just wanted my check. Just wanted to say, I'm Nicole Pettiford. I'm the mother of Ajay Harad and the daughter-in-law of Anthony Anderson. And I can feel everyone's pain on here because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been on the side with police brutality, where my father-in-law was beat to death by the Baltimore City Police Department. And then 2 weeks later, they also set my 16-year-old daughter up and took her down for questioning for a murder she didn't know anything about, and they rendered her as a snitch. And 2 weeks after my father-in-law was murdered by the police, they killed my daughter, put a bullet in her head. So I understand the pain that everybody on here is going through. It's hard, it's sad, it makes you angry with everyone around you. It even makes you angry with yourself because you don't understand how something could happen like this to somebody you know. The first thing that comes to your mind when you hear something this tragic in your family is, this is not real. This is stuff that you hear on television. This is stuff that happens to somebody else. But you never look at it and never realize that that somebody else is you at that moment. And it's so sad and it's so hurtful. But I said all that to say that I'm here. If anybody ever want to talk, anybody ever want to get together and put our brains together and see how we can make this better and bring this family closer together, because I'm piggybacking off of what my sister said earlier, that unfortunately we've all been pushed into this family this way, but we all have to love each other no matter what time of day is, because you don't know that moment when somebody might break down, and it might be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they need somebody
to be there for them. So if it's okay with you, Queen Tawanda, if you can give them my phone number so that they can call and talk to me whenever they feel like it. And I love y'all, and I'm so glad that y'all all came to West Wednesday tonight to share your stories. And I do love you all. Mic check.
Mic check, and we love
Mic
you.
check.
Yeah. So, just for time's sake, because the police brutality list, I believe, if I read it correctly, it has 32 names on there. Do we have that list? Mic check.
Yes. Would you like to hear
Mic
that
check.
now?
Yes.
Okay, here I am. So the list that I'll be reading this evening is 3 weeks worth of police killings. We know that they kill about 1,100 people a year, which equals about 3 a day. Now, if we actually knew all the people they killed in the last 3 weeks, instead of 32, it would probably be 60 something. If these weeks are like the norm for these horrible police killings. So as many names as I'm going to read, there probably are quite a few others that were also killed by the police that we don't know about. So I'm going to say each person's name. If they told us the city and state where it occurred and their age, I'll read that as well. And if people could repeat the name to lift them up and honor them, that would be very good. First person killed by police since we last named the victims 3 weeks ago is from Hillsborough, New Jersey. The police killed him on September the 28th. The name is Patrick Chin.
Patrick Chin.
Patrick Chin.
Second, in Middlesboro, Kentucky, killed by police on September 29th, 41 years old, Daniel Ledford.
Daniel
Ledford.
Killed by police in Las Vegas on October the 4th, 21 years old, Demetrius Roberts.
Demetrius Roberts.
Demetrius Roberts.
Killed by police in Rochester, New York on October the 6th, Gordon.
Simron
Gordon.
Killed by police in Bolivar, Tennessee on October the 6th, 43 years old, Andra Murphy.
Andra Murphy.
Killed by police in Wentzville, Missouri, 22 years old, Johan Quintero.
Johan Quintero.
Johan Quintero.
All right. Killed in Indian Lake, South Carolina on October the 8th, 27 years old, Derek Clinton.
Derek Clinton.
In Gotts, Wisconsin, 30 years old on October the 8th, Lance Stelzer.
Lance
Stelzer.
Thank you. On October the 9th, in Lubbock, California, 32 years old, Travis Carlin. In Middlesboro, Kentucky, October the 9th, 35 years old, Timothy Houston.
Timothy Houston.
On October the 9th, in Madison County, Mississippi, 52 years old, Calvin Robinson.
Calvin Robinson.
On October the 9th, in Las Cruces, New Mexico, 35 years old, Gustavo Esparza. In Leyland, North Carolina, on October the 10th, killed by police, 57 years old, Michael Beck.
Michael Beck.
On October the 10th, in Whittier, California, 18 years old, Isaiah Guevara. On October the 10th, in Sunman, Indiana, 37 years old, Joshua Ebinger. In Anderson, South Carolina, October the 12th, 40 years old, Jonathan Combs.
Jonathan Combs.
Excuse me a minute, I just skipped a person. In Knoxville, Tennessee, on October the 12th, 43 years old, Brian Lee.
Brian Lee.
Again on October the 12th, in Las Vegas, 43 years old, Mario Martinez.
Mario Martinez.
In Davenport, Iowa, on October the 13th, killed by police, an unidentified person as of now. October the 13th, 41 years
It's
old,
8
Buddy
o'clock.
McKenzie.
Buddy.
Buddy.
Thank you. In Augusta, Maine, on October the 13th, 34 years old, Dustin Paradas. In Davenport, Iowa, on October the 13th, 37 years old, Bobby Klum. In I'm sorry, I was talking over someone. In Tarboro, North Carolina, on October the 14th, 32 years old, as of now unidentified, Ashe. In Geary, Oklahoma, on October the 14th, 46 years old, as of now not yet identified, Ashe. In Tarpon Springs, Florida, on October the 16th, again an unidentified person, Ashe. On October the 16th, in Estero, Florida, 30 years old, Joshua Hammock. In Laredo, Texas, on October the 16th, they don't give his age, Guillermo Gonzalez.
Guillermo Gonzalez.
By the way, Guillermo in Spanish is the same as my name, William, in English. In West Palm Beach, Florida, on October the 17th, 33 years old, killed by police, Alan Robb. In Fort Smith, Arkansas, on October the 17th, 40 years old, killed by police, Christopher Connor. On October the 17th, in Vancouver, Washington, 28 years old, Kafin Carullo. On October the 17th, in Springfield, Missouri, 40 years old, Douglas Nakmus. And very close to home, in Washington, D.C., on October the 18th, this person has not yet been identified, Ashe. And thank you. And that's the last person we're upholding and honoring this evening in this long list of people whose lives were stolen by the police. And imagine all the pain we heard tonight from people who have lost a family member to police violence. Imagine all the many friends and family members of all these people now suffering. The system got to go. Mic check.
Mic check.
And again, this is a family where we don't want to wish or sign anyone up to. And unfortunately, all those families now are a part of this family. And it's so sad, it's sickening, and it's very disgusting. I know we didn't take our minute, like we normally do to show respect, but just in your own time, please, just like think of these families. Enough is enough. Like, this is a hit squad. Like, this is like, come on now, like 3 weeks, 32 people. That's the names that we know of. There's a lot of names that we don't know about. Trust me, it's gonna be the stuff, and I would say times 5, because the stuff that they're gonna tell us and the stuff that they're not gonna tell us. So it's disgusting. But moving right on for the sake of time, do we have the sad homicide list that's happening, occurring in Baltimore City? And even though I know we uplift the Baltimore City names of homicide, but unfortunately, you heard my sister, Shantae was talking about, Chicago, where you got 16-year-old babies robbing people. It's just sad. And then I hate watching the news. When I turn it on for the weather, I heard about, like the teenage violence and how they lock some other teenager up and they're so quick and happy. So we're charging them as an adult. Like, I'm just over it. So, and again, my heart goes out, but these are families. So, do we ever say?
I have that for you. I do want to mention a couple of things real quick before I go into this gathering goes off. We're going to have a discussion group. We do the Sea Dog discussion group, the challenge discussion after West Wednesday. This time around, it's going to be discussing Angela Davis's book on prison abolition. And we talk about like all these deaths we've seen and all this the pain, and this is not going to stop as long as this system that we're in exists, as long as we live in this capitalist and authoritarian system. And part of shutting that system down is going to be shutting down the prison industrial complex that is given birth to, and that just feeds so many of these people in a cycle of, you know, locking people up for minor crimes, and they get out and they can't get jobs and they go back to crimes, and it just goes round and round until someone dies. So, you know, if you want to talk about here's talk about that and what Angela Davis had to say. The address for that is meet.jit.si and then / and it's c-dawwg, and everyone's welcome to come and join that discussion. And I wanted to also stop and reflect for a moment on the theme so far today. Has been a lot of it has been about mental health and people trying to stay sane and stay strong in the midst of this crushing system that we have and all this pain. And we're fighting against this entire system, and this is a system. They have all the money, they have all the power, they have the media, they have what we have is ourselves, our lives, our bodies, each other. And we can win with that, but the only way we can win with that is if we stay strong and stay focused and stay united. And the only way that we're going to do that is to love each other and support each other. And so, you know, things like this are so important because we have to be there for each other and make time for each other and give each other strength. And so, you know, I'm so glad that we could take the time to do that here in this venue. So I just wanted to, as always, thank Tawanda, who is the shero of this entire network, and who just keeps the whole thing going. And I want to thank her so much for doing what she does for all of us. And so now it's time for me to talk about the people here in Baltimore who died by violence in this last week. And again, we stress over and over, these are people whose lives have been stolen, but the names that we have are just doors into families, into friends, into neighborhoods, into networks. They're never going to be the same. And so we ask that you just hold in your heart, pray, whatever it is you do that for these people, and for strength and for courage for all the people who love them. 33.
Dwan Murray, 33.
Alan Parker, 36.
Alan Parker, 36.
Tayshawn David, 27.
Kayshawn David, 27.
Jonas Ben Jr., 37.
Jonas Ben Jr., 37.
Lamont Wade, 47.
Lamont Wade, 47.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I just want to thank each and every last one of you guys. I want to give a big special shout out to our sister Queen Shantae. Like, the mental piece is very important. I want to give a big shout out to my best friend, my sister at this point, my real sister, like Kara. I want to give a big shout out to my sister Angela, let her know ASAP out of that home. I want to give a big special shout out to our sister Queen Nicole. We got you, Queen, and just to everybody here on West Wednesday and just around the world. And we do know that mental health is important. So I'm praying that all the names that we just read, you guys, the 32 families, and as well as the other people that we read. And I know it's way more people on the list, but these things sometimes gotta update, and they strategically do it the way they're doing it because they don't want, like, we should be beyond outrage, but they don't want Like they want to control everything. They want to control the narrative. They want to control everything. But at the end of the day, I'm praying that these families make sure they take care of their mental health because that is so important. Because without taking care of your mental health, you cannot do nothing for anyone. That is so truly important because guess what? You can break down just like that. We know that we take good care and we invest in our homes, we invest in material stuff, our cars, computers, all this stuff. Guess what? It is yourself and your family, and we need to take care of each other. And that's making sure that we take care of our mental health matters. And again, sorry we ran over time, but again, just thanking everybody that was able to come on this venture and share. And not only the ones that took the time out to actually watch this. Thanks for the comments that you guys sent. So sorry that we were unable to read them tonight, but thanks for sending the comments. Just thanks for tuning in. And remember, this is a day that we have never seen before. Unfortunately, it's a day we will never see again. And I'm really waiting to see what our brother Ben plays. But remember, mental health matters. And Ben, what video are you going to take us out with?
I was going to take us out with Do the Right Thing, Muhammad Tal.
Oh, man, I love you.
1 minute.
Like I was in my mind, and I'm not making this up, and I know it sounds phony, but I was in my mind like that would be again fitting because it do seem like we have a target on our back, but we still have to just like take care of ourselves. But like, oh my God, Ben, my bro, for real, like get the skin color, like I think somewhere we are tied along in the bloodline, somewhere. But any old way, just remember, live to love to live. And I love you all. And again, all our special guests, thank you so much for your time. I wish I had money to pay you to give you something, but just the things that you did tonight are priceless. We can't put a price amount on it. And again, we always say that it's not about the income, it's about the outcome. So remember, share this video. We're asking anybody that's watching this on YouTube because Facebook is playing so many games. I'm just ready to throw in the towel with Facebook. But just please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. That's all I'm asking you. Like, share, and subscribe. That way we could be top of the line when somebody pull West Wings up, bam, it's gonna come up at the top. But because we doing real hard, like tonight, like literally, you had Sandra Bland's sister, Shantae, on here to tell you. And I felt like it was Sandy speaking through her. We heard Sandra Bland speak elegantly and everything. That was Sandra Bland speaking through her. Like she is Sandra Bland. Like beautiful sister. We had Timothy Fleming's on here tonight. Cause again, his sister, Angela's on here. And he was speaking through us, telling us to get his kids out of that hole. Nicole was on here, representing not only her beautiful daughter Aja, but Anthony Anderson, her father-in-law. So, and just for all the unknown names that we haven't said or shared, just we want accountability for everybody. And I know we're having a conversation tonight with the C-Dog about abolishing the police and all this stuff and the jails and all that. Guess what? I'm still going to stand firm. And I'm be the one in the conversation. Cell blocks for killer cops. We need to understand because they feel comfortable with killing us with no they get rewards. Pretty much, they get rewards. Like nobody has been held accountable. We know Sandra Bland, as beautiful and elegant, this queen, and all I can remember, this queen said, "Oh my God, sounding like myself. I can't wait. Oh my God, it's going down." It was one of them. It's going down. I cannot wait. When he was doing all that foolishness, being disrespectful, the racist pig that he was, pulling her over, telling her put out a cigarette. She's in her own vehicle. She moved out his way because he's driving like a freaking maniac. Okay? And then she gets found. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about it because I'm trying to take care of my mental. But we know she didn't kill herself. We know she was not that type of queen. We know this. Like, get the hell out of here with this damn foolishness. And we're demanding that everybody that is watching this, please keep our sister queen, Shantae, and her family in prayer. Keep Angela, keep us all in prayer, guys. Please, we need your prayers. And remember, we do have targets on our back, but we have to change this narrative. And the best way is making sure we take care of our mental health so we can fight this dirty, dirty system
and knock it down and build it back up. That's what I said.
Excuse me, Tawana.
Televised.
Excuse
Mike,
me. I just want to say one thing before we go off. Angela, if there's something specific that I could do to help get new housing for your nephews so they won't be in that house where their dad was killed by the police, please feel free to get in touch. If you want me to lean on some official or some particular thing that would be useful, please do get in touch. All right, that was it. Mic check.
Mic check. And then
Mic check.
we could definitely talk about the next West Wednesday meeting that we always had, not the meeting, but when we talk about prosecuting killer cops, we can actually have a piece in that collectively to see what we can do collectively to help get those children removed out this house. And if anybody knows of things right now, you can hit us up personally. But yeah, that is our next thing. We're going to get those kids out. No problem. And they're going to, guess what? Guess who's going to pick up the tab? This dirty city. They're going to pick up the tab. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
All right, for this final video, we've played Muhammad Tal's "Do the Right Thing," otherwise known as "I Got a Target on My Body," a bunch of times. It's a great video. It's a piece of spoken word. It was originally recorded on the 122nd West Wednesday, very early on. Muhammad has supported us, the West Coalition, as much as he can. He will, randomly roll through on a West Wednesday and show up. But I also wanted to show a video that's a little bit different. This is him performing this same poem that he delivered at West Wednesday down in Washington, D.C. Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check.
The ER Rashad, all y'all. Hey, yo, shout out to Kanye too, yo. Like, no. Huh? Alright. So before I start my piece, I just want to say, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, the Most Gracious, the Most Merciful. Secondly, I want to send a special shout out to my mom who couldn't be here tonight. My mother used to take me to poetry practice on Sundays. From 3 to 6, she would sleep in the car. And then she'd carry me home, and at 7 o'clock, she would leave to go work the night shift at the hospital. And I just love her for that, yo. All right, so here's my piece. Thank you. Let me know when y'all ready. I got a target on my body, somebody. Please protect me, got a target on my body, somebody. Please protect me, got a target on my body, somebody. Please protect me. The devil heard I got a message, so he's trying to disconnect me. The mayor said, do the right thing, Doc. So here I am trying to heal the hood. I'm challenging politics. Didn't need to practice, man, I swear.